Now, it's AM 650's The Law Show, a comprehensive look at everything you need to know about the law. Now, here's Sterling Fox.
On this episode of The Law Show here on AM 650, we're speaking with Vancouver estate litigation lawyers David Hobbs and Ian Giroday from Hobbs Giroday and learning more about legal protections for individuals with legal disabilities and for those who are vulnerable to abuse and undue influence. And this is a heavily loaded category, and I would imagine at Hobbs Giroday, people come to you who are just suspicious. There's just something wrong about this. I can't really put my finger on it. There's a change in behavior here, but there's no strong evidence that it's really off the tracks. But it just feels wrong, David. They sit across from you in your office and say things like that. What do you do?
Well, we try to turn the discussion to hard facts about things that support a belief that there's something going wrong, that there is a reason to be suspicious. And so in the case law, the word suspicious circumstances are there in many cases. The court looks for it because if you can establish suspicious circumstances, if you can meet that test, then you're starting to shift the burden of proof as to who has to prove what. You're also starting to shift the court's attention to the detail of relationships and events.
So that Ian's example that we had just before the break, Ian talked about, just even in their apartment, all the family photos are gone, and now they've been replaced by the new person, this interloper who's suddenly arrived and is mom's new best friend. And would that qualify as a suspicious circumstances if there were other similar changes in mom's life like that?
Well, I'll just off the top of my head try to give you some examples. There's no exhaustive list. Suspicious circumstances could arise in many different ways.
Okay.
But little things like what we call the long-standing estate plan. If a person has had a planned distribution of their estate for 30, 40, 50 years and they're about to change it within maybe the last year of their life in a very dramatic way, there would have to be a very good reason for that. Otherwise, a person would not normally make those types of decisions.
Right.
Anything financial, whether it's the bank, investment advisors, ownership of land, and so on. If a new person in someone's life is now becoming literally involved in the finances of a person's affairs, you have to wonder about that. Keys to property, keys to cars, keys to apartments, giving a person access, anything that reflects an alienation behavior, trying to get control over the person and to alienate their relationship with their friends and family.
Right.
Any of these kinds of activities are grounding suspicious circumstances.
Ian, before the break, I talked about power of attorney. From my very non-legal perspective, it appears to be the key to the vault. If you can get mom to sign over power of attorney to you, this new third person, you can suddenly access every dime mom owns. Is that true? Does the power of attorney give the individual granted the power unlimited powers?
Well, no. An attorney is simply the agent of the person who grants the power.
Okay.
So they have to act in the best interests of the donee, we call.
Okay.
We call the person who grants them the power, so there's certainly a level of scrutiny at law that they have to behave appropriately. Does the fact that you're appointed an attorney mean that there's an opportunity for mischief? Absolutely.
Right.
I was thinking about it the other way, Sterling, when you mentioned power of attorney and in terms of what the family might be able to do. Perhaps the overarching answer is what a family can do where they're concerned about a new person in their adult, their elderly parents' life. Would be, well, you got to put more effort into your relationship with your parent. But
good point.
But certainly, getting appointed as an attorney or a representative of your elderly parent to assist with personal care and with financial issues, to do the basic daily activities, financial activities, that would be a great protection. if you could convince the parent to give you that power.
Right.
If the power is being granted to the interloper already, well, one more badge of suspicion to be worried about.
Right, and that would constitute evidence in terms of suspicious changes, unexpected changes in an elderly person's life, signing over power of attorney, David, to, relatively speaking, a complete stranger.
Right. I mean, if the person's shtick is that they wanted to bring cookies and milk and visit and so on, but they've been granted power of attorney, you have to wonder, like, why is that necessary?
It's well beyond cookies and hockey games, isn't it?
Right, right. So, but it's the other thought I have, and it's not a legal thought. It's just really that question: what do I do? What do I do? It's a very difficult question, and the circumstances vary, but I. On a personal level, I think that making people aware that know this person and that may be close advisors or close neighbors or close family friend, I would say people that have been long-standing trusted relationships, making them aware to be on the lookout. I don't see that as necessarily a bad idea.
Right.
Part of the difficulty with implementing things or speaking about these things is am I doing it in the best interests of my parent or the person I care for, or will I be perceived as trying to benefit myself?
Right. Sweeten my cut in the will.
Right.
Right.
And that's always a difficulty that you face in terms of what you're trying to do and how it might be perceived.
Right.
Ian's nodding emphatically here.
The point is that and it's exactly the sort of circumstance that the interloper will take advantage of.
How?
But they will say, well, look at your family here. You know, they're want to discuss this with you, and they want to have the public trustee come and see you, and they want your neighbors to keep an eye on us. They just want you to preserve your estate for them. They're just after your money.
Right.
So they just turn it right around.
Right. And of course, these people, in a bizarre sort of way, they're professionals. This is what they do. This is how they make a living, by ripping off old people. And some of them are pretty slick, aren't they?
Oh, some of them are very slick. And, it's funny, the discussion about the public guardian and trustee, because it is offensive to a person who has dementia and who is aging to suggest to them that they have these issues.
True.
No one wants to be told, you're losing it a little bit.
Right.
We all will say, well, no, I'm not. And certainly to have the public guardian and trustee visit someone it's a very, very sensitive issue, because you in effect are messaging to your parent or to the aged person.
We think you're losing your marbles, Mom.
Right, and we're now we're implementing process to investigate this.
Right.
Very, very difficult call to make as to whether it should be done and what the consequences may be.
And as Ian said, relatively easy for the interloper, the rip-off artist, to slide in there and go, you see? They're just after your money.
Sure.
They want to prove you're nuts so they can get after your dough. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness I'm in your life.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting? This is The Law Show on AM 650. When we come back, we'll talk more about the public guardian and trustee and other remedies available to us boomers as we look out for the well-being of our parents and elderly relatives. And we're talking about vulnerable individuals who may or may not be exposed to influence or perhaps even undue influence. David Hobbs and Ian Giroday, and more on The Law Show on AM 650 after this.
This is AM 650's The Law Show. There's more of the show still ahead.